I'm Randy Simmons for Eye on Arts. I have a very special guest today, and it is a former student of mine, Grace Yocum, and I'm so pleased to have Grace here.
Pleased to be here.
Well, thanks for agreeing to do the show. You have been a student of mine previously, and I think you had about a 2-year run at the Paducah School of Art and Design, and you're a recent graduate as well. So tell me about art, and especially your early life. What led you up to the idea of going to the art school?
Well, I've always been interested in art. I actually, when I was really little, would write stories about the little rainbow leopard stickers and stick them onto construction paper and draw little scenes for them. And when I ran out of those, Mom told me to just start drawing the leopards. So after some, I guess, a little bit of struggle with trying to get more leopard stickers and actually just accepting the fact that I could draw them, I started doing that, and I started drawing horses, and then I started drawing sheep. And I started drawing all sorts of things, and I found out really early that I was really into ink. Whenever I was really interested in drawing at some point in the day, I would ask Mom for a pen. If we didn't have a pen nearby, I wouldn't draw. Mom tried to get me to draw with a pencil. She's like, well, you can get rid of mistakes and everything, but I was just having none of it. I'd pitch fits. I was a real baby about it. But loved my pens.
A real go-getter at an early age.
Yeah, I wasn't afraid of mistakes, apparently.
What, did you have a lot of talent running through the family? Yeah,
my mom is a really talented artist. She did decoupage recently, actually, about this size of a marina that we went to in Florida. And it's incredible. My grandmother on my dad's side as well is very talented in pastels and sculpture. My dad's a musician, but only got a tad of that.
Right. Well, it's all creativity.
Yeah, it's pretty much
comes through the same place.
Yeah.
And it's found its way into you, obviously.
Yeah.
So you started taking classes at Paducah School of Art and Design in January of 13. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. And what made you choose our school?
Well, it was close to home. I was taking dual credit courses at first, so I was still in high school, and I couldn't really go away to college for that. So I figured out it was a really great school. I just needed to get some prerequisites out of the way. It wasn't like I needed to go to a 4-year university just yet. And I just loved the people there and the staff. You were awesome. You kind of won me over. I was actually going for writing first because I've been really into writing my entire life. And I took a drawing 101 and realized that I enjoyed like creating visual art as well. And so I just started doing that and going into fine arts because I can focus on just creating in general instead of just having to do like a whole bunch of science that I might not use later. I can educate myself on that. But
right. And well, I remember in drawing one class that you were a rock star from the get-go and incredibly serious about the work. And you did all the assignments.
Yeah.
You did everything I asked, and your work was always great. So, and I remember you worked really quite a bit in your sketchbook as well. And I think you kept up a lot with the writing in your sketchbook. And I remember you had a great great sketchbook and a great portfolio to come out of the class. And I think you were introduced to charcoal for the first time. Is that right?
I was. I had tried charcoal a little bit before, but not extensively because it scared me. Got all over my hands and it made a mess, and it was really hard to control because I didn't know how. But after I learned how to use it, I started enjoying having it all over my hands.
Right. Well,
as you know, I get to have it all over my face.
You did. It was almost like a competition with the students who could have the dirtiest face. And
I always won.
And you always won because you were covered with it. You almost like intentionally did it.
I did.
You would
it was fun.
Be caked on. You know, thank goodness you didn't wear a lot of white, to class. And a lot of dirty clothes,
Be the art.
You definitely were the art.
Incorporated myself.
Well, those are really good days. Yeah, and a good class. It was great having you in class, and we had some good students in there as well. So you took drawing 1 class, and then went on to drawing 2, life drawing class. And you got into some 3D. You started working with sculpture and ceramics. How did those classes go for you?
The sculpture and ceramics was awesome. I loved getting into the dirt, pretty much, the ceramics, the mud. Learning how to be patient was key. Because, I mean, the 2D class really helped with the being patient and trying to really take details into consideration, but then also the ceramics was you have to let go of things. They'll break a lot. Like if you put something into a kiln that you worked really hard on, you think is really good, it could come out broken. It just is nothing, you can't control it at all. It'll be completely different when you see it next. And that taught me a lot, and just in life and art in general, you just have to be able to let things go, kind of like ink, mistakes and everything. You have to learn how to incorporate it into the art and not necessarily hold on to the idea of what you wanted at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it just teaches you a lot about life in general, doing art classes, and it worked out well. It was really difficult at first, as the 3D was out of my element. I had always drawn and just really gotten into the 2D, just looking at things from a perspective of a picture. And I was not necessarily prepared, but I enjoyed the change of pace. At first I was really scared of it. Actually, Cody, the teacher, he was like, you seem like you need to like loosen up a little bit and actually not be so afraid of everything, because I'm used to like working really big in 2D, but when I went into 3D I was working really small. And I just was really afraid of getting too deep.
Right. Well, that is a huge change to go from drawing large to working three-dimensionally small. And I like what you said about having a preciousness to your artwork, and a lot of students. That could be the downfall as well, is to not take chances with their work. And you were definitely willing to do that. And it made me think of the story of the one drawing that you had. You brought it into class, and it was a great assignment. I think it was a pastel. It was a pastel piece, and then
it was the only pastel piece.
And then that was a piece that was in your car accident, and it was totally destroyed.
Yeah, I hated doing color too. I didn't hate it. It was scary. It was something that I'm not, which is why I'm doing color now. But the one piece that was in color and pastels, which I really didn't like know anything about, and yeah, it got drowned.
Let it go.
I did. It was a whole process of not thinking about it.
Right.
So.
Well, you finally graduated, and so what was your experience overall? How would you label your experience at the college?
Incredible, actually. I learned loads, just incredible amounts. I mean, not just in art, as I said earlier, but also just in just life in general. Just learning how to adapt and to survive, I guess. And it's just I learned a lot about people, and a lot about communicating, and a lot about give and take with relationships, and a lot about, it's just, the WKCTC, I'm gonna like throw this out there, is incredible. It really is. PSAD.
Well, thank you. It makes it easier to have students like you that come through the program. And what other classes did you take here at the college, not necessarily in art, that you found influential?
Well, psychology, actually. It was very interesting to think about, I guess, behavioral psychology in general has always intrigued me. I started actually reading more like philosophy and such like that, because I was wondering about the way people think and the thought processes and everything, and just the hormonal imbalances and such. It just, there's so many factors in everything, and you have to take everything into account, like how math even goes into art and how science goes into art. You can't separate one from another. You have to completely accept everything as one, I suppose. It's definitely hard to do, to accept that you have to be knowledgeable in many things and not just what you love. So.
Good words of wisdom. And writing, you took creative writing?
Yes, I took short stories with Britt and Shirley. It was incredible. It was amazing. It actually got me into writing a lot shorter. I used to write like things that were so long-winded, kind of like J.R.R. Tolkien, except not on that level. So it was just long-winded. I wrote like 2 NaNoWriMo books when I was 16. And that's just like 50,000 words in 1 month. Just novels, just blurting them out there. So I can write a lot, but he really focused it down and helped me hone what I wrote.
Right, self-editing.
So, exactly. So it helped with my poetry as well. It's just, I would write 7-minute long performance pieces, or 5-minute long performance pieces if I were lucky. And it helped me kind of break it down to now it's 1 minute, and I don't really see the need to add anything else, which is starting to get a little annoying because part of the like requirement for performance art is you have at least like 2 to 3 minutes. So now I'm trying to get back up there, right. Well, find the balance.
And it kind of reminds me of the process of, even with art, is a self-editing process as well. And I had to learn that too. You do the local poetry night at Etc. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, there's just very creative people there. About 2 years ago I started going, and I hadn't written in a really long time when I started going there. I had been busy with school and work, and I really wasn't feeling very creative at all. But I got to Etc. and started hearing poets perform, like Snacks or Tyler, and I started being inspired to create again. And so I started writing a little bit. I went home and I wrote an entire poetic piece, and then I performed it a couple weeks later because I was afraid. Stage fright is a thing. Then I started getting addicted to performing it, to bearing my soul, to being able to just release everything, letting go of what I thought people might think. And so I started writing more intimate things, but then also performing them loudly. And it was a good balance of, I guess, just release. It was just perfect for that time in my life. And they helped me get through a lot, artistically and emotionally, personally.
I see a lot of parallels in drawing and your poetry, because you've said a lot of the same words, like release, for example. Yeah,
it's just definitely cathartic. And whenever you have something on your mind, I try to incorporate everything that I do with something that I'm dealing with immediately, whether that be an abstract concept or like literal concept. It's a very, it's how I organize my thoughts, because I can be thinking about something that I want to write, but have no idea how I want to write it. But then once I start trying to incorporate it into drawing or painting or 3D, it starts kind of being fleshed out, and I start thinking of it in different ways and attacking it from different angles and becoming a better artist through different avenues.
So your work is more autobiographical.
It's becoming so. I mean, I'm trying to stray away from that a little bit, because I used to write a lot about like just imaginary people. And I started reading a lot of Anais Nin, which is a writer from like 1930. And she's incredible. She wrote in a very eloquent way just about things she thought and just about her travels, and that helped me a lot. So I started doing the same thing with myself, because the way I think is a lot of just is very abstract in my head. I don't think in words, so being able to write them out and think about it over and read it legibly helped me a lot. So now that I've kind of developed that, I want to move on to something a little bit more distant from myself.
Right, okay. So the Poetry Night's going really well, and you've been heading that up with Snacks for a couple of years.
Yeah, Snacks and Tyler. Yeah, I've kind of taken a little bit of a break from it recently. we got to the point where we were going away, like going to different cities and performing, and that was awesome. I enjoyed it. There are tons of really great poets out there, and people think poetry is going to be like something dry and something boring a lot of the time, but you get up there and you see a whole bunch of people talking about real issues and real like emotions, raw. It's addicting. It's literally probably just the most beautiful thing that you can just walk in and see someone just being passionate. And I got to the point where I was getting tired. It was just a lot of emotion all the time, and I had to kind of step back a little bit and reevaluate what I wanted to write and not get swept up into this whole like just typhoon of just emotion. And so I am trying to do a little bit more like thought out processes now all by myself, and I'm going to go back later and try to incorporate that. But
well, it's a lot of energy going out to doing poetry, because it's a sense of acting as well, and you are spilling your guts out, so there's a lot of emotion that you're having to expel in front of a large group of people. It must get tiring. It is. It's very tiring, and it happens a lot. You need to prepare. Like, we've done several shows, and it was amazing. Just the whole, the community is very accepting of just like poetry, and I wasn't expecting that. I was under the impression that people thought poetry was stupid because I had thought that. And so, yeah, but like it's very stressful. I mean, they're very talented people, the people I work with. But I just don't feel like I'm on the level that they are yet. I need to kind of step back and build myself up, because they're releasing things like every month. And in order to do that, you have to like be meeting like every day of the week. I just don't have the energy to do that right now. And someday I will. I know I will, because it is a beautiful thing. But right now I have other things on my plate that I need to take care of. Well, and you took a little bit of time off last summer in 2014 to go on a special trip. Yep, Italy. It was incredible. Just learning, that taught me a lot about landscape and being able to actually slow down and look at it, because I draw a lot of people, or really close-up things. A lot of people, actually. I have always enjoyed trying to capture emotion through the facial expressions and just stance. Right, the gesture of the person. Exactly. And so I'm just kind of a little bit obsessed, but it helped me look at the surroundings as well. Like Ra's al Ghul said in Batman, you always have to pay attention to your surroundings. And I was neglecting that. But in Italy, I took your landscaping class, and I learned a lot about how to give the illusion of distance and how to give the illusion of magnitude in something, so that I wasn't sitting there for like days trying to get it completely accurate. You did a lot of drawings, and you also got to go back and revisit ink and the brush pen set that we used over there. It had some color in it, but I remember the first drawings. I think you did some black and white ones in Florence, and you sold those too. I did. Yep. That was incredibly wonderful. I did a lot of black and whites at first, because, as I said, I'm very afraid of color, or was anyway. I've since then started getting over it. But it was a good learning experience. I had done those in Florence, the black and whites, and then we went up to Fiesole when it was looking over the entirety of like just Florence, because I know we had gone up to that church, Saint something in Italian. I'm drawing a blank too. I know what you're talking about. I don't know. But you can see a lot of it. But when we went up to Fiesole, everything was blue, because the atmosphere was so thick, because you were so far away and you could see everything. So I started with that. Everything was blue, different shades of blue. So I just started with different shades of blue and started like
easing into color. But it was a really good experience. Since then, I've started looking more at color, a lot more at color. Just the way one color can be completely across like a wall, and if you put your hand up, depending on the shade of your hand, you have like a pink hue. It'll turn whatever wall was behind you like a sort of green. Just kind of like to shadow and contrast everything.
Right.
So that was like the first step. The Italy trip was the not being afraid of color, and now looking at it more makes me kind of loosen up a little bit.
Did it affect your writing at all?
It did. I wrote very sensually in Italy, just because it was a very intimate, like passionate experience.
It's a sensual place.
It's a sensual place. Like it's beautiful. It's got rolling hills, and it's warm, and it's got music on every corner, and it's just smells delicious everywhere. Yes. So I just started writing a lot more sensually, and since then it's been kind of hard to break. So I've been trying to play with different like ways of writing, but it's my favorite.
Well, it's interesting that in this conversation, I mean, you started out by making up stories with the stickers and so forth, so you've kept this narration and writing and art and drawing all rolled into one, and you're propelling forward, which leads me to the next question, and that is like, so what's going to happen now that you graduated?
Well, I have a ton of ideas. So far, I've started working at a local cafe and just making connections. That has been very helpful. I have several projects underway, one of which is actually a traveling project. I don't know when that's going to happen. I've actually started it already. Just whenever I go out, if I feel like I need to ask someone this question, I will ask them and then record what they say and ask them if I can draw a picture of them so I can have it beside me. And essentially what that question is what they feel is beautiful about life, like what they enjoy most about it. And I've got varying answers. Like I've got very philosophical answers that even I have a little bit of trouble understanding. Right. So I was like, I'm not sure that makes sense, but it's okay, I'll write it down anyway. Try to keep everything verbatim so that it's in the person's own voice. Yeah, and editing, as we've been talking about, self-editing. Yeah. So this piece that you brought into the studio, this is something that you're currently working on. Yes, I have been really interested in the color yellow and red. I usually am one for blues, but I recently moved downtown, and this is the view from my balcony. And so I've just been kind of interested in the whole concept that we can be looking at something as vast and beautiful as a sunset, but be completely behind everything. Because like there are tons of wires that I have yet to add in, but they're like everywhere. Yeah. The phone lines, the just electricity lines, the cable, the everything is just stacked on top of each other, kind of caging the sunset, but you never notice it whenever you're looking at it, the sunset, because you just completely block out everything else. It's kind of like talking about drawing in Florence and sitting on that hilltop like we did. And everything we were just talking about reminds me of what you just said about this piece and doing a landscape and tackling color now and seeing things that maybe weren't there before and working through a thickness. Yeah, I've been experimenting for sure. I'm not sure where this one's gonna go. Right now, I've just been, as you can see, like wherever there's red, I'm trying to make all the shadows green in front, or whenever there's a strong color in the front, I'm trying to use a light color in the back. Right. I'm just playing. This is a very experimental phase, I think. Well, that's all it should be, right? You should be playing. I'm definitely always. Definitely. So working on this currently, do you have plans to travel anymore, or are you moving on to a 4-year school? I definitely want to travel. I don't know if I'm going to go to a 4-year school or not, because I feel like at this point I've learned all the technical issues, all the kind of everything that I need to know from other people, and I have developed myself enough as an artist to kind of have some credibility with people, so that I can go and I can talk to actual other artists and kind of glean information from them, and maybe even develop an apprenticeship at some point. I'm not quite sure if I need to spend so much money on learning how to do anything else that I could teach myself. I'm a big advocate of teaching yourself as much as you possibly can, simply because I don't have a lot of money.
Hey, we're artists. That
yeah,
kind of comes with the territory.
I need to be smart about it, and I honestly would rather develop my own style instead of going off and having someone tell me what I should do. But that might change. I might decide later that I want to go and I want to
keep your
learn
options
other things.
open.
Exactly. I'm not going to say no, never.
One thing we haven't talked about, and we're running low on time, but real quick, artistic influences. You mentioned books and reading and an author. What about artistically? Who do you find influences you in your artwork?
Anyone who has like a gestural quality. I really enjoy actually Dale Lay's. He really kind of struck a chord. But also, I really enjoy just watching any older, like Picasso. He didn't really have a gestural quality, but he had come from technical and gone on to whatever he wanted to do. And it was very interesting. You have to build that credibility.
Right.
It's a very important step that a lot of artists forget. And but Caravaggio is one of them as well.
Yeah, one of my personal favorites too.
He taught me about light. And so Picasso taught me about evolution, basically, artistic evolution. And Dale inspired me to be more conceptual. And it's just been interesting, kind of evolving to the point that I am now, where I'm trying to be more of a expressive artist instead of a technical one.
Well, I think you said everything that you're going to do. You said it very eloquently, and you've got a really good direction that you're heading into. And I think I hope to see you on the cover of an art magazine sometime soon.
That would be interesting.
And have your poetry published as well.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
So well, thank you so much for dropping in and seeing us, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing you around town as well to poetry readings and at the coffee shop. And the name of that place is?
Piper's.
Okay, so we'll come in.
And etc. is the one with the open mic. Okay. Both of them are awesome.
They're both awesome.
They're both great.
We'll come see your performances then as well. Well, this has been Eye on Arts. I am Randy Simmons, your host, and thank you again, Grace, for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.